morning, students. I am Architect Pallavi Sharma and from Galgotia University from School of Architecture, and I am here to teach you the subject Landscape Architecture, which is a new subject for you in architecture. This subject is introduced in third year and it is a mandatory subject in this year. Now, what are the objectives of landscape architecture? Why should we study landscape architecture? What I am going to teach you in this presentation about landscape architecture and why I am teaching this to you. I want to teach you the subject to familiarize you what a landscape architecture is, because this is a new subject for you and it is introduced in this year only, and I want to know you about the landscape architecture basics. Now we had started the presentation and everybody is having one question in their mind, why should we study the landscape architecture and what is the importance of landscape architecture in architecture basically. And I am telling you about the importance and what type of attitude developed by the landscape architects after becoming the landscape architects. What landscape architects are. Landscape architecture is about not creating only about cities, great streets, great parks. Landscape architecture is one that inspires healthy living and well-being while protecting natural environments and people. Landscape architecture is about creating safe, sustainable and resilient landscapes that evolve over a time. What should landscape architecture contribute to the well-being of the society? When you become architect, if you go in a landscape field, a attitude is being developed by you. Over a time, you became an environmentally sensitive architect as after become a landscape architect. The attitude changes for landscape architects. They become very much sensitive to their climate, to the environment, to protecting their natural areas. They always keen to build healthy and vibrant communities. They always address climate change, and they always address what will going to happen after building these things. They always want to grow or to build the things which are environmentally friendly. They believe in green infrastructure, and these things are the major attitude changer in landscape architecture after become landscape architecture. Now what we are going to study in landscape architecture PVT in this presentation. What the landscaping is. I'm going to tell you about what is landscaping. Then what are the elements of landscaping? Then elements of landscape design. Elements of landscaping and elements of landscape is different. I will show you in the presentation. Elements of landscape, basically I deal in this presentation about soft scape of landscape architecture. I tell you in detail two elements that is come under soft scape of landscape architecture, and these two softscape elements are plants and water. We will discuss plant and water in detail in this presentation. Now Now we have to discuss the elements of landscaping. I am discussing elements of landscaping in this slide. Elements of landscaping is divided into two types, that is natural and man-made. In natural, or the things which are naturally grown or naturally existing are natural elements, and the things which are developed by man are come under man-made elements. Natural elements are plants, vegetations, water bodies, lakes, pond, earth forms, land forms, topography, stone. These are the natural elements which existed in nature naturally. Comes under natural elements, and man-made, the structures built by man from brick, the glass wall, the street benches in parks, street lights, all the things which are developed by man come under man-made elements. In this video, we will talk about the elements of landscape architecture and how they are applicable when designing a landscape with the help of examples, videos and visuals. So let's get started. There are mainly, I already told you, there are mainly two categories in which landscape divided, that is natural and man-made. Natural elements include plants, vegetations, climbers, creepers, natural water bodies, stones and different landforms which develop naturally. In these visuals you can see the types of sedimentary and igneous and metamorphic rocks which are developed by volcanic eruption and other natural activities. And from these major natural elements we get further small element in which we can apply in our landscape design. Now we will discuss them one by one in detail. Firstly, we start with natural elements, that is plants and vegetation. Plants or vegetation is a broader category, and there are many other subcategories like trees, flowering trees, shrubs, climbers, creepers, ground covers. These are the major categories in which plant vegetation is divided. Mm, These are the ground covers. You can see in this video how the visual appearance or aesthetic appearance is changed by the use of plants in our landscape. We will apply these plants in our courtyards, in our outside our home, in our plazas, to make it lively and to make it beautiful. Without plants, the landscape is not possible. You can use it along the pathways also. You can also use them to create visual boundaries to segregate certain areas, such as if we want to separate some boundary of lawn. We also use these ground covers for beautiful lawns, for back gardens. How you can see in this visual how beautify the plant make the appearance of the element. These elements are also used to create a comfortable space for us to live. If used properly, based on climatic and environmental condition of the area they were going to use, and give a best results. And if not used properly, can also have reverse effect. For example, if the climate is very hot, we can give trees around the buildings which can provide shadow on the walls, due to which the wall will not get heated much during the sunlight and will keep the building cool. Like this in the video. Another example can be the use of water bodies in dry climate. When the wind is dry, so we can place water bodies in the direction from where wind blows, so that wind can carry some humidity from water and cools the area. Architecture perspective, plants are also used to emphasize certain buildings or wonders. Like you can see in the picture, the landscape done on those is basically very subtle and less dominating, that are from the building, and plants or vegetation used are of low height so that it doesn't overpower the building. There are other landscape elements which are used like water bodies, stones, etc. to complete the landscape design. We have studied the elements of landscaping. Now we are going to study the elements of landscape design. In this presentation, I am going to only brief these elements. After the finishing of landscape elements, we will come on landscape design element. But I am just introducing you the landscape design elements. The design elements of landscaping are the focal points. You know what are the focal points? Points, line, how we use lines in designing. The line makes a very much different in the viewing angles and creating the things, the abstract, the curves, all the are the functions of line. Form, texture. Texture also enhance the quality, the aesthetic of the things in used in landscape design, and the scale. These are the main elements landscaping designing. These are not the elements of landscape. These are the elements of landscape design. Landscape plants. Plants. In this presentation, we will going to discuss the plant material. Only softscape material we will discuss in the presentation. Hardscape material will be discussed in another presentation. Majorly, I discussed in the previous video what are the types of plants: trees, shrubs, creepers and climbers, and land cover. These are the four broad categories in which plant material is divided. Trees are the things, the plants which are above 5 meter height, used for shading, for environmental regulation, for river transportation. Many other functions trees trees are performing in our climate, to regulating climate. Shrubs are the smaller than 3 meter height. They used for hedging, for boundary. Creepers and climbers are used for wall covering. They use support for their growth. Land covers are used for covering the ground, such as grass. Uses of this plant material. Two we will discuss two major uses: environmental and architecture. Environmental, microclimate modifiers. Trees are the microclimate modifier. They play a major role in climatic regulation. Conservation belt, erosion control. Soil erosion control is a major function which are performed by the trees. Retains groundwater. Groundwater table regulation is also depends on the afforestation. Retains soil fertility. It is also a major function. Prevent siltation. Now comes to architecture function, enframement, to frame the thing, to module, to give a enhanced look for the thing. Scale induction, to introduce scale in the building or build form. Creating of plazas. Defining pathways, they are used as path drivers. Defines pathway. Welcoming look, aesthetic appeals to the view. Other functions which are performed by the plants. Plant create outdoor rooms. Trees, shrubs, ground covers can be used to emphasize the desirable architectural lines and masses. Plants can be used to soften and balance harsh and awkward architectural angles, masses and materials. I think there are many pictures in the slide which is beautifully shown the role of plants in architecture. Other functions which are performed by the plants. Plants create outdoor rooms. Trees, shrubs and ground covers can be used to emphasize the desirable architectural lines and masses. Plants can be used to soften and balance harsh and awkward architecture angles, masses and materials. I think there are many pictures in the slide which is beautifully shown the things, how plants are used or enhance the quality or the aesthetic appeal of a landscape of an area. In this slide, these are the pictures which is shown how architecturally shown how the plants enhance the appeal of a building. In this picture, you will easily able to recognize how the plants make the frame for the building. Inverted two type of focal points in which we use. inward oriented space. If you want to look space inward oriented, you can plant like this. If you want outward, you can plant like this. Now the human eye has a tendency to follow the outline of objects in a landscape. With this idea in mind, the apparent size is effective. Plants that reach large size of maturity are often planted too closely to the house when small. When mature, dominant and make thin and smaller are planted um, far away from the house. These pictures show the role of plants in, for example, if we make our house or we design a house for any client, how we use, how we how we beautify the outdoor of a building envelope, or how we beautify the aesthetic appeal as a whole in a by landscape. The environmental role of the plants. Obviously, the plants are the pollution controller. Without plants are called the lungs of a city. Deforestation is a major issue for the global warming and the climate change. So, environment plants are the major controller of a climate, and if without plants we can't control pollution or we can't survive also. It is used for aesthetic in landscaping, but beside aesthetic, it is a lifeline for Earth. Noise control, it also controls the noise pollution. Climate control is a major function of plant material. Use of windbreaks to control winter winds. Embankments, deciduous and evergreen plantings and masonry walls are used together for effective sound control. You can see in this picture how the plants divert the noise, how the deciduous plant, if where we don't want to block the sun, we will use deciduous trees. If we want to block the sun but don't want to block the sun and want to block the noise, we will use deciduous trees and these type of embankments. The climate where the climate is cold, we will use deciduous trees for to let the sun enter but not the noise according to seasons. Slide, in this picture you can see the shapes of plants, round, vase, plant material which are available in these types of oval, where we are saying pyramidical, round, arrow. These are the basic shapes in which plant material is available, or this is a naturally existing shape in our environment, in our universe. We will use the plant material according to the shape in our design, according to our requirement. This picture, I want to show you about the how plant describe the space, how the small plants describe the space naturally. The background, these plants create the background of space, these create the middle ground, and these create the foreground. This is naturally existing landscape, but due to plants we will able to recognize the things, we will able to recognize the to differentiate the things, the material, the spaces which are existing in this picture. We will able to do this due to naturally existing plant material. I think I will be over with the elements of landscape, that plants. Now we will start and element of landscape, another element of landscape, that is water. Water is another most important landscape element. Water bodies improve the quality and the worth of the site. It makes the site attractive. There are many type of water bodies, for example, fountains, pools, ponds, sprouts, artificial waterfalls, etc. Add sound, movement, and enjoyment into the landscape. Water also adds the movement. In this picture, you can easily recognize the movement added by the water in a space. Water makes space lively to live. uh, aesthetic appeal enhances drastically by the water. The use of water, right thing, right element of water at right place makes the things marvelous. Although water is an infinitable source, but we have to know about the cycle of the water. Water flows inevitably from the source to the receiving ocean basin. Uses of the water is excellent land-water interface gives an ecological home for the animals and plants. Water runoff reduced, hydrological cycle maintained, groundwater level maintained. If the water precipitation is not enough, we will face major climatic disaster, that is flood, that is drought. And if we face extreme, then we face flood. So water cycle should be maintained, and it is a natural existing element. So we should take care of the element, because without water we can't survive. And it of water landscape, now the uses of the water, microclimate is created by the water. If we place a water body in the direction of wind, the adjacent area will be cooled by that wind. It is the major thing which will be used to cool the uh, urban heat island areas. Moisture level maintained by the water bodies. Maintenance vegetation into wetlands. Wetlands, marshes, swampy areas conserved are to be conserved. It is necessary to be conserved because they perform a major microclimatic regulation. Wetlands are performing major microclimatic functions. Site aesthetics are enhanced. They can, in this picture you can show how the water can mask noise from pedestrian areas. Moving falling train space are created by the water. We will completed our presentation of landscape elements. In this presentation, let's take a review of the presentation. We started with the landscape designing. What is landscape? What is landscaping? Then we discussed landscape architect role, the importance of landscape in architecture, what the attitude will be developed by the architects. Then we come to the elements of landscape. We will discuss in detail softscape elements, that is plant and water. We will discuss, we had discussed the microclimatic functions of water, the environmental functions of water, the plants, the environmental functions, the architectural functions of the water and plant in this presentation. Thank you.